Hi, welcome back. I thought we would get a little nostalgic today because some of you have been with me for the 10 plus years that I have been reviewing makeup here on YouTube and all other social platforms. And I still get comments from people saying, I remember when you used to use this, or I loved when you used this, or you introduced me to this 6, 7, 8 years ago. So I wanted to pull out some old school favorites that still have it, that still look great, that I still have in my collection, that I'm still repurchasing. And I thought this would be a fun, nostalgic guessing game for a lot of you. Some of you will probably guess the products before I even get them up on the camera. So the first product we're gonna start out with is one that I absolutely, it was like life-changing to me, especially in the summertime. You would see me use this in every single video that I filmed in the summertime, and it's something that I would use as like a skin tint hybrid, a bronzing hybrid, something that just looked fresh and healthy on the skin. And it is the Charlotte Tilbury Unisex Healthy Glow. Now, I'm gonna be honest, this one's it's old. I probably should get rid of it, honestly. And I have not even checked to see if they still make this. I think that they do. But this was the end all be all for me. And honestly, to this day, I would pick this over the Flawless Filter. I mean, I like Flawless Filter, but it doesn't do what this does. So this is a product you do have to be pretty careful with if you have a fair complexion, because you can turn Oompa Loompa very quickly. My favorite way to use this is to actually mix in a little bit of moisturizer. So I have my La Roche-Posay Tolerian moisturizer, just like a totally basic white moisturizer here. And this is a white product. It comes out white and then it transforms into a bronze tint for your skin. A little goes a long way. I don't know if you can see that there, but I just put a small dot in with the moisturizer, and that is going to be plenty to give my skin a little bit of color. So I just like to blend it in and apply it as like a prep moisturizer, and it does this really crazy thing where I always felt like it just smoothed out my pores. Like it truly gives me, I don't know, like this blurred appearance to my skin. Maybe I've just convinced myself, but as I'm blending this in on one side, I just want you to kind of like take a look and tell me what you think. This is without, this side is with. I mean, it almost comes off as like a skin tint. And again, I want to caution you, if you do not mix this with a moisturizer, you are going to get, let's just say, the bronze scare of your life. We know and love her, MAC Face and Body. Now, this is the Studio Radiance version, which I have looked into. MAC says this is the exact same formula as the original MAC Face and Body, except they just added new shades to the lineup. Some of you swear that it is different from the previous MAC Face and Body. I have not noticed that. Like, I even had at one point both of the old formula and the new formula together. I just have the new formula now because obviously the older one's expired, but I wasn't able to detect a difference at all. And the only thing I can think is that when they were creating new colors, obviously things probably had to be altered a little bit. So I'm thinking maybe some of the newer shades, that could be something people are picking up on. Maybe there's something slightly different. I stuck with my usual shades. Like, I did not venture out and get a newer color. So today I'm going to be using my classic shade, which is N1. I feel like I have a chameleon undertone where I can get away with wearing any undertone and any foundation, except for peach. Peach does not do well on my skin, but for example, in the winter time, I really gravitate towards cooler and neutral tones, and I find that they match my complexion really well. And then in the summertime, when I get more of a tan, I'll lean more into the neutral or warmer tones. So I think that's why I could flip-flop back and forth between both. But N1 is the shade that I currently have. And yes, we are applying with the fingers, because if you go back to my iconic how to apply MAC Face and Body video, nothing has changed. I actually recommended using that Charlotte Tilbury Unisex Healthy Glow when using MAC Face and Body, because I think there's such a bomb combo. And you can see this is just adding a little bit of extra coverage. This is not anything overwhelming. The thing that I love about Face and Body though is that it is very buildable. You could definitely build up to a medium coverage with this. A lot of people who work for MAC argue that you can do full coverage. I just don't think it is in its best state if you do more than like 2 layers, if that makes sense. This is the foundation I kept in my kit for years, and the foundation that I used on hundreds of brides for bridal makeup. And the reason for is that this originally was a waterproof formula. I haven't checked into the new claims. I would assume that it is still supposed to be waterproof and sweatproof, and it just always looked glorious, and I never changed it. Now, personally, I recommend when you're going in with a second layer to almost just press into the skin as opposed to rub. Or you could use a brush. It looks fine with a brush. I don't love using Face and Body with a beauty blender. I just think that it's too high of a water content to perform its best with a beauty blender. So I just added a little bit more to my fingertips, and I'm pressing into my skin, and it's still beautiful. So this next product is not necessarily an old school product for me. It's actually only a product that I've been using, I think, for the past 3 years, but it's still one that I think deserves more hype. It's very underrated. I think this brand as a whole is underrated, and it's the Honest Beauty Fresh Flex concealer. I love this concealer. I think that it gives just the most perfect amount of coverage, definitely more of a medium coverage concealer, but it's super thin. And you'll notice when I really love a concealer, it's because it has a nice thin consistency to it. So this one's in the shade Cream, and I'm actually just gonna use my fingers to blend this out. It balances really well with this Face and Body because it does have a little bit more pigment than what Face and Body has, and it just balances everything out. Gives me a little bit of extra coverage in the areas where I may need it, but it just blends in really effortlessly. I'm just so surprised more people haven't gotten on board with this. Honest Beauty makes quite a few really good products. I mean, I love their mascara. I loved I think they've discontinued these, but they had some like juicy lip crayons. Love those. I remember wearing those all the time after I had my son because they just made my lips feel nice and like juicy. So when I was pregnant and I go back and I look at, you know, your face swells a little bit, things get bigger. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of pregnancy nose, where your nose just gets wider and larger. Same goes for the lips. I go back and I look and I'm like, man, I loved my lips when I was pregnant because they were just so much more full. So after I had my son and, you know, I started losing some of that weight, I just felt like those Honest Beauty crayons were nostalgic for me. They made my lips look really nice and full. So yeah, Honest is a brand that I've had quite a bit of success with, and this is probably one of my favorites paired with their mascara. Okay, so this is going to be for all of the bareMinerals lovers out there. I still get so many comments on my old bareMinerals video, and I have a couple of products that I'm going to mention from them in here. But I get comments asking, like, you know, why don't you use bareMinerals like you used to? I'll be honest, it's not the same. Like, it's not the same brand as it was 10 years ago. Did I expect it to be? No, not really, but it just, after the company sold, which I believe was around like the 2014 time period, I just felt like they were more focused on competing with trends as opposed to really staying with the craft that they had perfected. And so, you know, some of the newer launches like the Bare Pro Liquid Foundation, I loved that. Still love all the old school stuff, but the new releases just haven't really been up my alley. So this is old school, Well Rested. If you're not familiar with this, it was basically the end all be all if you wanted that super saturated, bright, highlighted under eye. It's a very opaque, pigmented borderline white powder, and it just gave this super brightened effect to the under eye. So I'm going to use a very small amount today because a little goes a long way with this. And see if we can kind of tell the difference. I'm not, of course, wearing the original powder foundation, but you could wear this with powder or liquid. Going to tap this in. I used to take so much of this stuff. I would just get it all on my brush and just buff away on my under eye area, and it would be absolutely flawless. Don't get me wrong, it'd be flawless, but my under eye area was so white. So I'm just gonna use about that much so we can see, you know, there's a little bit of a difference happening here. I don't want to get crazy with this because trust me, you definitely can. But if you struggle with, you know, darker circles, this is something that you could use to set after you've corrected. And I would imagine it would look very nice. Another icon, another legend here, MAC Studio Fix powder. This was one that I used basically all alongside bareMinerals powder. This shade's NC25. It might be a little dark on me. I'm more of like an NW20 right now. But this is probably one of the few pressed powders that really lived up to its claim as a powder foundation back in the day. It was very hard to find powder foundations other than like bareMinerals, obviously, in my opinion, did it best. But I just felt like it was harder to find that. Everything was just like a setting powder. This is one that I actually did a full in-depth video on how to apply pressed powder foundation. And that was like one of my most viewed videos ever. And I used this product. So still very much a lovely powder. I don't use it in the same way that I used to. Of course, I had to use my Daniel Sandler watercolors for my blush choice. These have been products for as long as I can remember. I mean, I remember watching Pixie Woo, Sam and Nick Chapman back in the day when I just got started making videos, and I remember them using these and me just always being like, ooh, I would love to try those one day. Fast forward, luckily I turned this into my career, and not only did I eventually purchase these and fall in love with them, I turned so many of you all onto these. I mean, the year that I really started talking about these and using them in videos, I do have a way to track to see when people do use my affiliate links, and I could not believe, I mean, thousands and thousands of these were sold based on just like one video that I did. And then I, you know, continue to talk about them because I love them so much. They are truly unmatched. I'm shocked and also glad at the same time that no one has tried to dupe these. Like, I haven't found anything that looks like these, works like these, that has the colors. It's just a very unique product. And I'm really glad that they have remained Daniel Sandler's alone and only, and that no one has tried to, you know, rip them off, because they are super special. I'm going to mix Angel, which is one of my favorite shades, with Sunglow. This was a newer shade, I think, or a shade that I just didn't have for a long time. It is kind of like a mix of Golden Glow and Elegance. Elegance is one of the highlighter shades, and so this reminds me of those two colors mixed. I kind of thought that these would be outed, as in like everyone would be using them, when Michaela Noguera on TikTok talked about them. She stitched. It's so funny because when I only started posting to TikTok regularly last year, and after just, I don't know, like a month of posting, I talked about these, you know, in a video, and I guess somehow she saw it and she stitched it. And if you're not familiar, she has like, I don't know, probably like 6 or 7 million followers in the beauty community on TikTok. The beauty community on TikTok is very different from the beauty community on YouTube. She talked about these and they sold out for a while. And so I was thinking, man, the cat is out of the bag. But with the beauty industry just ever evolving and pumping out new products basically every single day. These are still like very much in stock and pretty accessible. I'm gonna use my Laura Mercier Matte Baked Radiance highlighter. This is one of the few powder highlighters that I still actively use because it does have such a stunning finish. I really don't need highlighter today, but I mean, you can look at that. Very high shine, but also like just doesn't look like powder on the skin. So this is one that used to be super popular back in the day. Okay, I unfortunately did not have an old school brow product in my collection that I feel like I used a lot back in the day. It would have had to have been Glossier Boy Brow. Like, I just remember using that. It was my one and only, and I don't have that anymore. I am excited for Glossier to come to Sephora. I need to get back in and rediscover some favorites. I still use my Glossier You perfume. It's like one of my all-time favorites. But I thought we would go ahead and move into the eyes. And I mean, honestly, this is the brand that cultivated the excitement for eyeshadow, in my opinion. This might as well just be an ode, a respect, a dedication to MAC as a whole. They pioneered the way for a lot of popular products now, and I feel like especially with the younger generation, it's definitely starting to be looked at as an older brand by Gen Z and whatever is after Gen Z. Is it Gen Alpha? I think my son might be Gen Alpha. They got a cool one. I don't know where I heard that. Anyways, I have the MAC Semi-Sweet ×9 palette. This was actually a release from not that long ago. I want to say this product is probably less than like 6 years old, but it does have a lot of iconic MAC products or MAC eyeshadow shades. It has Blanc, Bamboo, Carbon, and I thought it had the shade Malt in it, but I guess it doesn't. So it has a few shades that were really iconic back in the day. Now this is an all matte palette. We all remember Naked Lunch from MAC. That was one that, you know, everyone just had to have in their collection. So I just had to give it to MAC on the eyeshadows because there was nothing more fulfilling and exciting for me back in the day than when I got to design my first ever MAC eyeshadow palette. And I'll be honest, I didn't have a lot of MAC products until I was approved into their artistry program. So MAC has like a super generous artistry program, and if you are an active makeup artist, you should definitely apply. I don't know how the rules are now, but you could either have a cosmetology license, you could show that you have done print or editorial makeup work, which is how I got my pro discount. Luckily, I was fortunate enough to work on clients that were in magazines or actual magazine covers, and I just submitted those. So you get 40% off if you're a pro artist. And when I started getting that 40% off, honey, that was it. My money went to MAC and MAC only. I swear after you have kids, your hormones are all over the place. But going back to MAC, my MAC Pro store was actually in Nashville. And I don't know if you remember Mel Thompson, iconic Mel Thompson, makeup artist here on YouTube. But she actually worked at my MAC Pro store. And before we even, like, we knew of each other, but before, like, she knew that I did YouTube and I knew that she did YouTube. We just were, I was a customer and she was a MAC Pro artist. And I used to, even my mom, when my mom would come with me, she would say like, oh, I hope that girl, you know, that we like is working. Like, she was always so sweet and helpful. There were a lot of people that worked at MAC back in the day that were straight up snobs. I had two people at my MAC Pro in Nashville that I absolutely loved. PJ and Mel were those two people, and I talked about them frequently here on my channel. But I just got like choked up thinking about her. If you don't know her, she did pass a couple years ago. I can firmly say, as someone who used to see her, talk with her frequently, she was so nice and helpful and skilled and talented in so many ways. So there was my MAC tangent. I didn't really mean to go off on that, but something just like it struck a chord when I started thinking about, you know, all of my time and money and efforts, you know, spent on this brand. So let's go ahead and do an eye look. I'm going to take the first two shades, which are Blanc and Bamboo. Both right here are the two lightest colors, and I'm just going to use those. Actually, I think I'm going to take Blanc and I want to do since I am going to do just a total matte eye look, I think I'm just going to take the Blanc shade and I'm going to make my mobile lid pretty light. Also, one thing I hate is that I've seen a few videos in the past couple years being like, you know, there's so many eyeshadows better than MAC and that are more pigmented than MAC. It's not. There are so many brands that go way overboard on pigment. I'm holding my Makeup by Mario palette right now. Love it, but it is so freaking pigmented that you have to be extremely careful when you do pick up your product. MAC shadows to me are that perfect balance. It's not crappy, you know, cheap quality pigment, but it's also not like you have to be super careful when you dip your brush in, and I really appreciate that. Again, I talk about the rule of balance in my videos a lot, and this eyeshadow formula fits into that category perfectly for me. Okay, now I'm going to take Bamboo and I'm going to use that in my actual crease. This is such a perfect transition color if you have fair skin. And now I'm going to pick up a little bit of Dance in the Dark, which is a deep charcoal tone. And I'm just going to do, this is honestly kind of like an old school shadow look too. I'm going to smudge this into my lash line. A little bit of winged liner action going on here. Okay, and now I'm going to take Pink Sienna. This is the one that I thought was malt. And I'm just going to use that on my lower lash line. Benefit They're Real Mascara. Is there even a competitor? Because this was the first mascara that I feel like got people excited for mascara. You know what I mean? I can't tell you how many years I wore this. It's definitely one that now works better on me after it's dried out a little bit, but that's kind of like any mascara formula. It's still really good. Really excited to get into these lip products. Now, the only lip liners in my collection that I still would consider an old school favorite is the Makeup Forever Artist Pencils. These came out about 6 or 7 years ago. So again, not the oldest lip liners that I've ever used, but they are definitely, they're just well-loved formulas. They work. You can use them for your eyes, your lips, your cheeks, whatever. So I think I'm actually going to use Endless Cacao today, which is more of like a taupey brown color. Normally I'd go for a completely sepia or Wherever Walnut, but I haven't used this one in a while. If you like the 90s like gray lip liner trend, this one. Next up are my babies, my Clinique Chubby sticks. I used to save up my money like every other week and go purchase a new shade in the Clinique Chubby sticks from my Clinique counter when I was in college. Like, That was my favorite thing, my favorite makeup item to save up my money for. And eventually I had all of them. I literally had every single shade in the Chubby Stick Regular and Chubby Stick Intense. Now I only have 3. I have, and I think some of these weren't even out like back in the day. Heaping Hazelnut is an old school one. That one it's been out forever. I think Bountiful Blush was as well. Mega Melon, I don't remember as much, but I think it was an original one. So yeah, you cannot tell me that these don't slap. They are just the epitome of fun makeup. Like I just love these. They're comfortable on the lips. They come in some really nice shades, and there's just something super nostalgic for me. Are the Neutrogena ones at the drugstore the same? Honestly, I would say those are more frosty. Like I always thought those had more of like the satin frosty finish. These are just smooth and comfortable, and I love them. And I think I'm going to use Heaping Hazelnut today because it just passes the vibe check. It's a super just neutral tone. On some people, you probably won't even be able to see it. On me, it's like my lip color, but better. I love this combo. Look at that lip combo. I like. I don't know if I've ever worn these two together. And last but not least, the nostalgia toppers of the evening here. These are so special and nostalgic to me because the scent reminds me of how I got into makeup, how I started learning makeup and makeup artistry. And it'll make sense after I explain the story, but it is the Buxom lip glosses. So some of you have heard this story. When I started working for bareMinerals when I was 18, Buxom is a bareMinerals, Bare Essentials owned company, or at least it used to be. They may have branched off now. So when Buxom first released, it was just like another product with bareMinerals. Like they had them in the boutiques when you would go into the mall, and they sold Buxom for a long time until they decided to branch off as, you know, an independent brand. So I remember when I got my first job, I was just mesmerized by these. I had never seen lip glosses so pretty in my entire life, and I did not have any money saved up. The store that I worked at gave me a really good discount, but I had to save up my money for a while before I started purchasing these. So what I would do is go into work and just get the little, obviously we had like tester lip wands, etc., mascara wands. I would just take the tester lip wand and I would pick out a color for the day, and it was just so fun and nostalgic. And the smell just reminds me of my first job, learning how to do makeup, being nervous and excited at the same time. And I still purchase these to this day. So yeah, that's why I chose the Buxoms. I have 3 colors in my stash right now. I have Sophia, I have Sandy, and then I also have Ryan. Celeste and Dolly. Dolly was always like the most popular color, but Celeste was a shade that I loved as well. It was one that came out later. There were only a few shades. There was like Danny, Dolly, I think Sandy may have actually been like an original one as well. Oh man, like I thought there was nothing more beautiful than these glosses. I'm gonna use Sandy today because it makes the most sense with this nude lip we've got going on, and I'm just gonna put it in the center. They should honestly make this in a perfume because it transports me back. And I don't even know what the smell is. It smells delectable. I've always loved the smell of these, but I can never put my finger on it. To me, it's like very intense vanilla, maybe with a little coconut, and then obviously mint, but in such a unique way, and I've never smelled it in another cosmetic brand. So I think that's it. Don't get me wrong, I love the evolution of makeup. I love how far we've come, but I also think older products still deserve their respect. They still deserve to be featured. There's a reason they are iconic and have been used for years and years and years and haven't been discontinued. And honestly, there are some that did not deserve to get discontinued. I'm just straight up. NYX Bare With Me Skin Tint, I'm still pissed about that one. Like, But I hope you enjoyed going on this nostalgia train with me. I had some fun reminiscing on good times and some good products. Let me know what some of your oldest products are down below that you're still using, that you're still loving. Also, I would love to know one product that maybe you discovered from watching my videos, or a product that I recommended that you still currently use. I love getting those comments and just seeing what actually catches people's attention. So hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.